Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 5 of the End of the Beginning podcast. In this episode, we discuss growing your ability to be inspired, reconciling the paradox of our essence, and the price of transformation. We chat about every inspired gift having an inspired recipient, a powerful measure of growth, and when saying no is a resounding yes to your soul. We hope you enjoy what you hear, and if you'd like to submit any questions for upcoming episodes, please contact us at theendofbeginningpodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Instagram. Thanks for listening. But I had this amazing conversation with this woman at a rug shop. I don't know if they were closing down or not, but like obviously things were a bit slow, things were discounted, and I was kind of like, I dropped someone, maybe my daughter somewhere, and I had an hour to kill, and I was like, I'll drive down. God, who cares about this story? I drove down, and it was so cool. Like I had no idea about rugs, really, at all. And she was like, these ones are $12,000, and I was like, whoa, why are they so expensive? No one was in the shop, so she was just giving me an education. Yeah. And I was kind of like, why are these so expensive? She said, well, they're actually handmade in Turkey, or they're handmade in India, or wherever they were made. Yeah. And they have tiny imperfections, but that's what makes them unique. There's no one the same, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, and this rug here, which is the one I've got here, she's like, this one's $4,000, but it's on sale for $2,000 or $2,500 or something. And I said, but that looks the same as that. She goes, yes, but this is machine made. So it's the same process, exactly the same process. It's just a machine with the needle making the patterns, not a person. Yeah. And I was just amazed that world exists. I shouldn't be. It shows the kind of smallness of my thinking in that space. Yeah. But yeah, that there's these. She then went on to say, oh, you could spend, $100,000, $200,000 on a rug if you like. And I said, what happens then? She said, well, all of the obviously the artisanal part of it changes, but the quality of the wool, all of that stuff totally changes. And they become one-off pieces that are an investment. And yeah, there's a whole world, hey. Like everything seems to have a world attached to it. Yeah. I've been so music. Yeah. So that's why I have, 4 guitars on the wall. It's like these things sound different. This one sounds different to this one. A Fender sounds different to a Gibson. They make different tones. Yeah. And then you find out the same thing about acoustic guitars, which is why I have 2 different acoustics. It's like a Gibson's different to a Martin. It's like, and then you find out actually that's just human. That's just a human thing. We like different things. Yeah. And different things from different parts of the world, emerge, I guess. And
there's a chicken behind you.
That doesn't surprise me.
This unlimited depth in probably anything. Now, I'm having similar frontiers pop up. One of my hobbies has become knife sharpening in the last 3 or 4 years.
Do I?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I sharpened Paulie's knives for Christmas.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Gift that keeps on dicing. You realize any area of life has this unlimited depth. Like the detail that my dad was part of surfing industry forever.
Really?
And so you knew that, surely.
No.
So parents around surf shops.
You said, I remember you saying literally 2 pods ago that you grew up in surf shops. Huh. And I was like, what? Yeah. That's not something that we've ever really discussed.
Yeah. So in the 90s and some 80s and that
You mean when it was cool?
Maybe. So that's what Dad was up to. But the point being, there's unlimited depth to the history of that industry, to the elements of the stuff the part of it at its core that's about actual surfing. And the bit that's about actual surfing has heaps of layers to this. And I'm not a surfer. I don't identify with any of this stuff, but I've had a front row seat to a lot of it.
That's crazy that you're not a surfer. You grew up in the industry and in that space, but you were just like, nah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of insights into why that's the case. But what I have been exposed to,
You're just going to brush.
Well, no, if Dad was sitting here right now, he'd say it's because I pushed you too hard when you were young.
Right.
And you got scared and maybe didn't want to have to deal with that level of assertiveness from Dad, or Yeah, so Dad takes a lot of responsibility for that I don't remember exactly in that way.
Would you ever consider if a friend of yours was a surfer that
hypothetically
a beginning surfer?
You got to dial the specificity down, or it's too obviously you. So, you know that Simpsons line, like Lisa S. No, that's too obvious. L. Simpson. He says both.
Yeah,
perfect Simpsons line.
Too good.
Yeah. So whatever impact Dad's choices or lack thereof, so I don't feel a whole lot of tension around it. But what the infinite depth of these different spaces. So surfing is a doorway to meteorology. Like guys who surf their whole life, consciously or not, end up with a wonderful dynamic relationship to the weather.
Yeah.
The ocean will teach you. The weather will teach you how to surf. Surfing will teach you the weather. It cuts both ways.
Yeah.
And that's a sacred art form, learning the weather. Can you think of like a higher calling than understanding the planet?
Even like learning which waves are going to be good and which are not.
Right.
Like that's and you see them coming.
Yeah.
And you get excited. Like you get excited about one that's coming. You're like, not these two. Everyone else is going to jump on these ones, but I'm going to wait for that guy.
Yeah.
And then it might either be amazing or sometimes it just shits out and you realize I'm not that good at reading the waves yet.
Yeah.
But you watch guys.
Who are?
Oh my God. Like Kyle would be a classic example. He'll be like, oh my God, that one over there. Like he'll be like, Rusky, that's yours. Yeah, get on it. Like he totally can see 10 seconds into the future of what's happening with that wave, just naturally because he's been around it his whole life.
I think that's part of it. There is the skill set that's kind of cognitive, but enhanced by experience. And then there's energetic attunement where you know, like to use the musical derivative, you know you've hung around in that energetic reverberation and normalized it.
Yeah.
You could say become resonant with. So the part of you that's sound, the part of you that's vibrational can tune into the part of that's vibrational. And maybe that sounds a bit abstract for something so practical, but that's how it works. Basketball's my background. That's what I did instead of surfing. Nice little callback. But the guys that are amazing at it, and usually it's got a salty veteran end of career twilight foundation to it, this observation, this reflection. But Bill Russell's like the original, the OG of goats. Like he's 8 championships or whatever. 8 more.
Never heard of him.
Like
old school guy.
Yeah, 60s Boston. Anyway, so like a Pele, like the Pele of basketball. He talks about flow state. He makes allusions to flow state. Where it's like I could see what was happening before these guys and everything was in slow motion for me and I could tell that it wasn't for them. So this is, to me, it's vibrational attunement. And the whole topic we're talking about really is mastery and the idea that, wow, there's enough juice in knife sharpening that you could master it. And one person tells a story, it's like, you just made my life 2% easier for a lot of effort because they're not into knife sharpening. And for another person, you look into it, like me in this case, in this specific example, convenient example, that it's like I've fallen in love with it and had so many setbacks with it. And so it becomes more like admiring the Japanese masters of knife sharpening history kind of thing, rather than, I don't know, something lame and rudimentary like just having a slightly sharper knife that you could do just as easy a job with a bit more blunt force kind of thing. So like, the appreciation, you step through that door and you can see all the history and you can see the other people that are passionate about it. And it's a bridging to swords and weapons.
That's where my mind was going.
Metalcraft, really.
Yeah.
That's the commonality. And it seems silly, but it's kind of beautiful. And it doesn't seem silly really to me, matter. So guitars and like drugs and certainly parenting, it's like, how do we master this? And the beauty of mastery is you never actually get there. Mastery is relative to who you used to be. And probably for people, it's go, well, that guy is the best that we know. Therefore, must be mastery. Yeah.
The idea that you can get a sword so sharp that you can... You've seen them do demonstrations where they like put a silk scarf and it crosses the blade and cuts in half is insane.
The Bodyguard. Remember the movie? Yeah. Whitney Houston.
I do remember it. Is there a scene of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's what my mind's remembering. But it's probably fake, but the idea that something can get so perfected that something that should look impossible is happening in front of you, you know.
I suppose what is maybe of the inversion or maybe of most interest is what is it about human beings? I think it's a pretty yang skill, like a lot of the personal development spaces that are encouraging or even prescribing, go and pursue mastery of something.
Yeah.
Because it looks like it's about knife sharpening. It looks like it's about mastering finger picking on guitar. Really, it's about you interfacing with yourself. And I don't think that men or human beings generally need to have vocation or pursuit in order to have value. I think they have it already, but I think you can flesh out so much of it. I think that these hobbies find us, and we get basically as a part of us that wants to dance with more of ourselves, that wants to bring online new faculty, that wants to expand its own boundary. And we do that through, I guess, interface through a dynamic dialogue with something else. And that often is a hobby. And it becomes less relevant what the thing is. Like they're all really important, powerful catalysts, no matter what they are.
When you say
because we end up really sincere with them, right? You're so it's like, okay, I don't care if this looks silly to somebody else. I'm really into knife sharpening.
Yeah. When you say it becomes less important, do you mean that from a point of view of it's more who you are being while you are doing it? Yep.
I'm trying to think if it aligns perfectly. Certainly, it's what it does to us.
Because you get to express a part of yourself that is not normally accessible through.
Ram Dass used to have language around it as a something. It's a psychiatric term, but it's something about the catalysts that life offers. Like, and he's talking about relationship, that this person offers a key to unlock something in you for you to have an experience of yourself.
Yeah.
And certainly, and that's, again, a very masculine perspective of things, that there is nothing real's happening here. It's all infinity dancing with itself. And that you don't, the illusion being like, how much do you really love this person? So we talk about this often, you don't actually love them. There's nothing really personal going on here. So maybe in some ways the masculine is like, there's nothing personal going on ever. And the feminine is like, what else is there if not sincerity and the individual that you are, that you inhabit, that you animate, cares so deeply about this person, those children. Yeah. And I actually think that both are just neither in absolute terms, both exist and neither exist. And dancing with which one needs amplification in the right moment is what life mastery looks like. How do we meet the moment fully? It's like, is this a feeling moment or is this
are you talking about
moment?
A polarity of the same, you're talking really about two polarities of the same thing, right? One is the amplification and one is the nullification. Is that fair, do you think?
I think it's one way to hold it, yeah. You have to explore what nullification is.
Yeah.
Really, you're saying, can I create so much space for this thing that it can play out, that it can complete? They say in the tantric world that the masculine is pursuing the end of things all the time, to exist in tension, to triumph over tension, and then restore, release, like a wave that crests, diminishes, and resolves in the ocean. They say, like in the the David Data Way of the Superior Man context, in that space of, I don't know, spirituality or wellness industry or whatever, they discuss the masculine, particularly in the West, but let's say the masculine's proclivity for sports. It loves sports because there's rules, there's structure, and then there's an end. And if you watch sports from, like, let's say, like through a scientific observation lens, and you go, let's watch this crowd of people sit behind the telly and watch this group of men watching the football that are really engaged with the outcome, and watch what happens. It'll build and build and build and build, and then yes, and then release. You think of the try line in rugby or the touchdown zone in the end zone in gridiron. Like there's a line to cross, and you cross the line, and it's akin to masculine orgasm. And this is we're really grounding it in tantra now, but it builds and builds and builds and you're incentivized to keep building and building and building neurologically and sensually, and then it crosses a line and explodes into release, and then he's dead. And he can't go again instantly. He needs time to recuperate and reset. And the feminine, at its best, tends to be able to double down.
Yeah.
Tends to be able to go again and again and again.
Here's a contentious thought for you.
Okay.
My mind was going in while you were talking about rugby in particular.
Yeah.
So, like, again, this could just be my limited understanding of it. What do you think of the idea? This is where my mind went when you were talking. The actual structure of rugby, the rules, et cetera, is masculine. But then the actual play and the dance that is happening on the field is a feminine expression because it's creative and dynamic and moving, and it runs and pushes up against the masculine, against the rules, against the... Does that make any sense to you at all?
It totally does. But what it brings up for me is that I have ways, there's all these different topics, Tantra being one of them, and there's interesting aspects of it that light me up, and there's other areas that are like, that want to define law that interest me less. But if we speak about it generally,
I was just being a cheeky bastard going, wouldn't it be funny if these big burly men are being feminine in their expression of creativity?
So this
and
is
I
the
thought
point.
that was funny, of course they are, ironic,
because
and
you
funny.
can't have anything in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's one thing polarizing to different ends of the stick, which I think is what you were saying before.
Yeah.
So you can't have one without the other. So the field has life force bobbing around. This would be the Shaivite tantric principle of it, that anything that's form orientated or movement orientated is inherently feminine. That's the Shakti by definition.
Because it's creative.
It's life and it's life force.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the creation itself. It's the end game in its way as well.
Yeah.
Or the form.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everything else is space. You go, well, there's not a lot that's masculine then, is there?
Yeah.
You're like, yes and no. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's always the space that you can't, the presence of the Shakti always implies the presence of Shiva because it's there in the emptiness. The presence of the masculine always implies the presence of the feminine. So that's quite academic.
It is.
And it loses its juice for me, but that doesn't mean
I just
it
think
does
it's
for
funny.
you.
Honestly, I just thought it was...
It's hilarious. Of course, but the answer is yes. Of course there's feminine. Of course there's feminine surging and diminishing all over the field and all of that. So it's in all of us all of the time. Anytime that mask and femme is discussed in this space, or certainly intentionally in this space, but anywhere, they imply one another.
Yeah.
So if somebody is in a chapter of their life where they are celebrating how feminine they are, but they hate men, then they're doing their feminine a disservice because they are hating a part of themselves. And if it's happening, it's probably necessary.
I've had friends get so
sacred,
so bogged down in that space rather than allowing themselves to be fluid, to realize that you can have integration of your feminine with your masculine. Like, it's so interesting that, and that's a masculine thing to do, right? To put things in a box and stick it in, that goes in that structure. Yeah, exactly. I find that idea I find fascinating, that people become rigid in their idea of life, expression of life, who they are, what they should fit into. And I guess we all do it all the time to varying degrees. But this has been something that I've observed in a few friends.
Yeah.
And I find it, I guess it's poignant for me. This sounds dumb, but I had a meditation 2 or 3 days ago. And in it was quite a beautiful, loving space, and right at the end there was a message of you're not the story that you keep telling yourself. Don't forget that you can you can refresh yourself anew every day, and so it's quite poignant, that idea for me at the moment, how not a lot of the time, sometimes people find themselves in a space where they think they have to be a certain way, rather than allowing them the presence of being with who they truly are and just being okay with it.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
It does. And I wonder, do we do ourselves the service of defining what we truly are is, and you can't capture that with language. I suppose it's, can I find a way or a moment in time to connect with myself? So I slow down and go, how do I feel inside of myself? When you say who we truly are, in my experience, if I feel the feelings that are in my field in that moment, I can work out where I'm at vibrationally. And simply being seen, there's a masc-fem derivative to that as well. Those parts being seen then tend to release tension, fulfill their purpose for me, bring me back into contact with something, a more normal, natural state. This is the premise of meditation anyway. And it works in lots of ways. People experience this through dance or connection with nature, the ocean, children, whatever. Method is applicable and yet irrelevant. Like it has the way you get there's the way you get there. Getting there into a more natural state. So you could say
there's something beautiful about that, though. I think what you just said, like there's a method to a certain way to get somewhere, but don't forget to forget it.
Yeah, holding method lightly.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like it'll help you down this part of the road, but then don't stick to it because then you'll get stuck to this part of the road.
Yeah,
and there's a whole other highway for you to go and traverse. And
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you there. I just thought it was a really beautiful thing you said.
Yeah, be interesting to see. We've started on a few different topics and interested to see where it lands. So we come together for some dialogue for the pod and we see what wants to come up and out, like wants to emerge. Some of the best like spiritual speakers that I've had the blessing to appreciate, to consume the content of over the years. It's like you can tell they haven't planned a thing. Yeah. They rock up and they see what flows consciously. And so Q&As and things like that, someone has a burning question they want to ask. It has its own inherent relevance because it's their own frontier. It's their own outer border of work that they're pushing away at. And so that has a beautiful authenticity to it. But authenticity is fierce because it's like if we stop doing everything and just listen and see what feels like the natural next step, what feels like the most inspired thing to be doing right now, that can be scary because it's sort of inherently chaotic. It does invite us to stop trying, to stop busying ourselves, to stop chipping away at whatever we're chipping away at, which really can be an invitation to dissolve dogma. So like I'm doing a bunch of stuff and I can't remember why I'm doing it. So let's stop and see what feels really inspired. This precipice, this stuff can easily become fluffy spiritual language. I feel that I truly connect with, when I truly connect with myself, or when things are really sincere, when they're really authentic. And the reason they can become so easily fluffy is because those things can't be captured with language. They have to be experienced. And the only measure, is this person full of shit or not? It would be, how do I feel when I'm around them? Does this person feel connected to themselves? And I almost want to apologize that there isn't a better way. But I don't know that there is. The safest people in the world are the people that feel, the safest people in the world are the people who are the most connected to themselves because they want nothing from you. There's no games. They're simply there. I don't need you to validate me. I don't need you to celebrate me. Now, so often in our culture when we talk about those things, those are intellectual exercises.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that I don't need these things. But if you listen with your heart,
different physicality as well.
Like, you want me to validate that choice. Because it's almost like death. If you really need nothing from me, then that's death to old personalities. You need nothing. You're free in that moment. You're kind of dead in that moment. Or we're carving out a whole new way of living just in that moment. And these are micro enlightenments, and then you fall off the horse, and then you find it again, and you fall off the horse, and you find it again, and that's the dance.
I feel like for me, the next step from that, once you've let go of what the need is or what the external projection is of who you are, etc., to need nothing is then, well, what do you want? And what is your curiosity? Do you know what I mean? Because that can drive something too with a beautiful, like you're saying, beautiful authenticity and honesty. Because my desire truly is to discover something about you that I didn't know. Or my desire is to learn from you. Or is to, like a whole bunch of...
I think you're describing inspiration.
Yeah, so probably, yeah.
You could reverse engineer
that as
saying...
You're drawing inspiration, I guess. You're trying to draw inspiration out of someone.
You could assert from that you can't find inspiration without, I don't know where I was going with that. You can't find inspiration without being quiet enough to hear it, or...
Did that land at all?
The bit you just offered?
Yeah.
Because it's like, seeing what I want was the key that...
Yeah, what do you want? Not what do you...
What do you want? So that's the
Because
same
I don't need
as...
you to bolster any of my I'm just saying as an example.
Yeah.
But I don't need you to bolster any of the ideas I have about myself.
Yeah.
I don't need you to confirm or deny whatever. In fact, if you want to challenge that, that's an open space.
Yeah.
Because that's grunty and does nothing but bring me deeper into my truth.
Yeah.
Because if you can shake and rattle something that I feel about myself, then and dislodge it in a way that causes inflammation, then you need to keep examining that space. So
Yeah.
they're kind of doing you a service. But if you get to a place where you're like, I don't know if you ever get to a place, but you're in relative calm, and what is leading you is actually, a deeper curiosity for the other person's experience, probably. And then how good are you, or how well practiced are you at drawing that out of somebody? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it's moving around a bit, but I think it's a beautiful exploration. Maybe the foundation of that was like, if we do, because I was alluding to it as a death, if I stop trying to be something in the world, I may discover that the thing that I am is really powerful and has a lot to say. And one of the invitations of all spiritual practice is working out that the thing that you are is already enough, and you're working that out all the time and having all these different dances. So if you can find a moment of relating to another human being, and it is so exponentially amplified by the presence of another human being, because we're wired towards connection. And if we're wired towards connection, that would suggest that we're inherently disconnected. And that is some of the nature of, in Shaivism world, in that arm of Hinduism, we talk about chitti, like all the energy of the universe fracturing into all these different parts, or contracting into all these different parts. There's like the one thing, and it contracts into all these different individuations. And those things have a natural inclination to work their way back to the whole, like magnets or like osmosis drawing itself into one residual field, or whichever.
Or like the Terminator in Terminator 2, the liquid metal one.
Yeah. T-1000. It's one of my all-time
Oh
favorite
my
bad
God.
guys. Yeah. It's awesome.
It was like it was right there in front of your mind.
Well,
The T-1000.
I loved that movie as a kid.
Yeah.
And he was scary. It was a great bad guy.
Yeah.
So it has
Shout out to Robert Patrick.
If we're aligned, if we're just predisposed to reunification, then we must be inherently separate. How about that? So that's why we can't help ourselves but relate. And there's introverts and there's extroverts and there's all that, but relationship is part of what it is to be human in that sense. And if you look at gender polarity or sexual magnetism, that's part of that too. I was born, here we are spiraling into many topics.
Fantastic.
I appreciate the audience for coming on this ride. Who knows where we're going? I don't know. It feels abstract and all over the place, but we won't know until we listen and try to be as authentic as we can. And we're rather humans. Sexual magnetism, breathe, created by separation. I suppose the implication of that is, if you were really whole, you might be sexually nullified in that sense. The fact that you feel attracted to another thing means that you're adopting the opposite polarity, a positive and a negative pole. So, like natural law, if you like. So if you take a chunk of the one beyond the two, so it has no polarity because it is complete and harmonized and balanced and full and needless, you take the one and then you split it into two. And arguably that's the birth of duality. And the first tier of that is masculine and feminine energy, or positive and negative charge, or whatever.
When you say first tier, do you think it splits then inside masculinity, splits into other subgroups and things? Or you're explaining the...
Maybe it is an oversimplification, because maybe all one things are split into two. But I tend to think of the first, if you've got the one and then it splits into the two, the first thing is it becomes as God and Goddess. But that's probably indicative of my background or something. Because why not hot and cold? Why not high and low? Why not fat and skinny, as someone said to me the other day? Yeah.
You mean wide and thin? My daughter's censoring herself these days. Wide people. I was like, what are you talking about? You know, wide people? She like made this.
She knows.
And I was like, do you mean fat people? She's like, yes. And I was like, why are you censoring yourself? Anyway.
Yeah. So it splits itself into two. And the desire you feel, the desire, let's say a heterosexual woman feels for a man, and the energy that a man brings, a heterosexual man, is an expression of that natural law. And if you think about it, is a desire to reunify as the one. So these things are split apart, and it creates a tension, which we experience as attraction, but also disappointment and pain and all sorts of things at different times.
Sometimes
a momentum
too.
to come back together. Well, that's another topic, because that's the inversion of it. It's like that means that men are sexually repelled from one another. Straight men are sexually repelled. And there's all sorts of nuances to like what's a safe opening and what's unsafe opening and all that separate topic. But one way to understand sexual polarity is a desire to go home. And at its coming right back to the concepts of tantric practice, and I'm talking about generally speaking, if I'm talking about relating tantrically, it's always within the confines of committed relationship. That's the way I understand it, and that's the way I think that it's amplified appropriately. That's the way that it really works, when you can be really emotionally and spiritually naked with somebody because you're committed to them in that relationship. Yeah. So what tantric law suggests in those spaces is that what the woman is doing when she's in deep tantric lovemaking with that man and opening up layers of her heart and her body more and more and more, is that she is utilizing that masculine polarity, that man, to access the other half of herself. So to peer so deeply into him that she finds the other half of herself, which is in its way transactional and in its way deeply personal, and almost transcend. You use relationship as a spiritual utility, as a portal to the other half of yourself. But the what's the word?
The man's doing the same thing, though. That should be said.
Indeed, of course.
Not just the ladies.
So the men's doing the same thing. But what I'm pointing to is like, we're coming home to ourselves through each other. And one of the beautiful aspects is, in a way, that's utilitarian, which has that masculine, like coming right back. There's only one thing going on here. There's nothing personal actually going on. But in order to play that game with any success, you have to honor the human being as they are. You can't do this with a stranger. You can't do this without being sincere and authentic in your vulnerability with this human being. They have to cultivate so much fucking safety with each other to be able to peel those layers back to experience something transcendent, that it's incredibly human and incredibly relational and incredibly vulnerability orientated. So the masculine perspective would be that it's about you and you. There's nothing personal going on here. And the feminine would be the absolute opposite. This is the most personal thing you can have. And if you happen to be a human being listening to this, you would have noticed that relationship at its best is like that. The revelry in being really seen. This person gets me. This person cares about me. Who? There is no you. It's only God. Oh, hold on. There's both. And I think this is the through line of, I don't know, what all my spiritual work is flavored by, is that there's these two layers dancing all the time together. The feminine perspective and the masculine perspective. It's a paradox. And we are that living paradox.
Yeah. You can't deny the masculine, feminine in this reality. You can't, I mean, you can move through it. I guess you can move beyond it and you can ascend.
Yeah.
But you can't deny it. Even when you are in ascension, you can still see it in everybody else, or...
I think still required to. I think the ascension this might be a bit of a spicy topic, but we're in a time...
It feels contentious, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like
it's charged. Well, there's like a...
Why is that?
Someone close to me would offer it as it's the difference between it being embodied and unembodied. So if you've met the feminine and masculine parts of yourself and really dealt with that tension. So terrifying to be a straight guy and to feel the capacity of the dark aspects of the feminine to manipulate or to enslave or to sexually dominate, or there's dark sides to everything. And the inference is that from a spiritual point of view, these are parts of yourself unintegrated, that you're, the kind of premise that there are no perpetrators and victims, that you are drawing all these experiences in for spiritual growth. As a side table, I think that is true from the apex spiritual perspective, but it can be very, very, very unhelpful to default to that all the time when you're processing something like abuse, or you're processing something like the fracturing of one of the main relationships of your life, be it parental or spousal.
I'm not sure that you can process trauma or process abuse or process, fracturing if you are in that ascended space.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I think what you're alluding to is you're ignoring the humanity. You're ignoring the monkey suit a little bit. And no?
No, totally. It's just like we're describing the presence or absence of bypass, and that we have to feel these things through in order for them to become integrated and embodied, certainly. But the idea that ascension, I think it's a third thing. Ascension comes from the embodiment of it. That's like, I can create a space for me to feel fully. You can have both alive at the same time. Yes, they fluctuate, but that, to me, that's what enlightenment looks like. And enlightenment's an infinite scale. That's like, I'm integrating and embodying more and more of myself all the time. And I'm less and less afraid of anxiety and fear and shame and whatever else.
Do you know of any enlightened masters that have partners? Because most of them, in my experience, seem to be lone wolf kind of vibes.
I don't know. Just like I had a partner. Typically in the classical Hindu world, he raises his head every episode.
Sponsoring.
He's sponsored by Benson and Hedges. It's like a famous. He used to roll bindies, right?
Really?
Cigarettes. Bindies? Is that what they're called? Biddies? The little Indian cigarettes.
No idea.
Anyway,
it's a cute name.
In classical sort of ashram, institutional spirituality in the Hindu world, they all have partners.
Right.
They all have a feminine, because so many of them are masculine, and there's some of them are feminine for sure.
Paramahansa's.
Did Yogananda have?
No, he did, but no. Also, his is it Yukteswar? I can't remember his name.
Yukteswari.
He had a partner as well. I remember. Unless I'm remembering wrong.
The ashram construct usually has like a ma, and it usually has a feminine counterpoint to help them run the village and all that stuff. And they theoretically have a spiritual balance, harmonizing role. And so in a way they all have partners, but it doesn't, my experience with it doesn't function as, they're not raising a family.
Right.
But again, I'm talking about the Hindu derivative, so we need to expand it out. My understanding of the Buddhist world is that they don't have partners. And that's perhaps the more rogue monastic element you're alluding to. Ram Dass would say, like, I could never really fall in love with one and do relational yoga because I was in love with all, and it wasn't really an option for me.
That's an intense thing to contemplate, isn't
He
it?
thought the other was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're abandoning the whole for the...
Well, it was. I think he was prevalent because he would have done so much relational counselling and advice in his life that he could see the fierceness of what it is to be that naked and to keep stepping into it. It's a lot because it's like this person. This is all our stuff's coming up. Are the tensions I'm experiencing in this spousal relationship, and maybe friend social stuff too, but spousal's a spicy, easy epicenter to discuss. Are the tensions that I'm feeling with this person the work, or is it toxic and I need to bail? That's the tension. That question, that conundrum is alive all the time in the chaos of deep spousal relationship. The panacea for it is trust. I said before.
You mean trust in
this human being has incredible integrity, and that.
But then, But if it's the opposite, if it's toxic, and it's then, are you trusting someone who's toxic and?
Yeah. Oh, that's not a rhetorical question. So how do we discern between the two?
Yeah, I mean, if we're offering a panacea, then it has to have has to have the response for both, right?
Yeah. The first thing I think of is how do you feel around this person? There's how do you feel about them, and then there's how do you feel around them, because that will directly inform the amount of safety your body feels in their presence to open and simply be yourself. And if you notice I have all these desires when I'm around them, but I don't actually feel safe, then there's a lot of work to be done. And then the next question is, can you communicate that?
Yeah.
And is this person interested in cultivating safety for you? Can they take some accountability and responsibility, which are power words in the relational and psychological space, but really, can they be a willing participant in this? Can they bring vulnerability? And in its beautiful moments, it's never about blame. In a lot of psychotherapy stuff, it's like, don't blame your person, the finger pointing back to you and all that.
Yeah.
But it has a natural law, like the law of nature, kind of like an innate way of being basis, that when you're in a loving relationship that has incredible health, blame doesn't come into it, because all that's going on is like there's him and her, forgive the crudeness of that, but there's like him and her, and then there's a we as a third party, and it's the we that holds each party to account, that holds a high standard in order to keep moving and deepening and keeping this thing spinning faster and faster, because we are growth emergent orientated beings. We need to keep showing up into new vulnerability at least a little bit every week or whatever. And in order to do that, we need to express reciprocal safety to keep this thing moving. So it requires a lot of authenticity to keep the wheels turning, or the rocket ship blasting across the sky. And it tends to, the fuel that ship runs on, well, one of the fuels, authenticity, integrity, but also curiosity. It's so natural to be curious. What is the we? What is this, the temple of this relationship that we visit, that we dwell within, you could say, or that dwells within us? What is it bringing up for us? It's relentless. It's ravenous. It will not stop. It's growth itself. It is a blaze. And what is it frying out of us? What is it melting away? So curiosity is natural. And there's like, it's moving so fast and it's full of so much love and uncomfortable. Like I find in my experience that it's tension orientated. There's a tension of having to show up to this that feels loving and expansive and often relaxing too. But it's not like you find a beautiful relationship and it's done.
And
no, it starts.
It starts. Yeah.
So they say, like, be very careful. You find your soulmate or your twin flame or whichever one it is, and
you said
it
that
just
with
starts.
Not disdain, but you're like, oh, whatever.
I forget which one's supposed to be the good one and which one's supposed to be the ruthless karmic relationship one. Yeah. So everything's yogic in that sense. Everything's doing the work orientated.
But there is a freedom, there is a freedom in what we're trying to do with the podcast. I think there's an invitation to freedom. I mean, we talk about being authentic. We talk about being vulnerable, and we talk about showing up.
Yeah.
And we talk about doing the work or whatever it is. And part of that is then allowing yourself the permission to just be yourself in a broadcast medium, which is insane. But that's where, at least in my experience, even with old school traditional broadcasting, because that's my history.
Origin story.
Yeah, it's like people generally do well when they truly engage with who they truly are. And there's something special about them. Because the truth is, there is something special about all of us. Every single person on this planet has something unique and different and wonderful to offer. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah.
Some souls are just more adept at the communication of that inspirational or that unique gift that they have. Yeah. And I think that's something that I've really learnt way, way later in my life, which would have been really handy earlier in my life.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I do. There's a gift that there's an energy coordinate point, you could say. There's an energy that wants to be expressed. The universe wants to express a certain energy. And some of that happens to be through the expression of a human being.
Yeah.
And amazingly, that energy, there's also another energetic experience that is the reception, the receiving of that expression. So somebody wants to say some words into a microphone and they feel an innate inspiration from somewhere deep inside of them, which would say the universe is trying to express through them, which sounds lofty and pedestalized. That the get out of jail free card is that it's available to everybody. Yeah. And so that it's, in a way, it's also knocking on the door of everybody, trying to move through. Which is, to me, in the chapter of my life I'm in now, it speaks to how can we make ourselves safe enough to allow it through, to soften like a bunch of tight muscles that can finally relax and just allow naturalness to move through, to adopt their natural mechanical function, or to give a tree such nourishing, homeostatic conditions, such nourishing conditions, what I'm trying to say, that it can naturally fruit and thrive.
I know that's a rhetorical question, but I think that how do you do that? And I think the answer is something that you said earlier, which is, and it's really easy to say, but harder to actually embody, is be authentically yourself. Isn't it strange that you see it everywhere on social media. I see it anyway. Everything's about authenticity. We're in this fabricated world that we've created, this manicured world. Even when you look out at the physical world, how long do you have to drive, particularly if you live in a city, to see something that's not touched by man? Manicured streets and cities, etc.
Right.
But I think what the advice that you were offering before, you weren't offering advice, the experience you were talking about before is the truth, is the way through all of that, is you are enough, And so then that invites a comfortability with being authentic. So, yeah, I know you were saying that rhetorically, but inside me, it's like, I wish my 20-year-old or 25-year-old self, someone had gone, hey man, a really good place, if you haven't had a look, is to really dig into that you are enough space and cultivate it and nourish that space and dig the cobwebs out and get right into the corners of it. Because there's a lot there.
If you looked at it in a really pragmatic, disciplined kind of way and go, the most powerful thing you, random, anonymous, singular being, has to offer the world comes from the core of who you are, comes from you being the most natural, relaxed version of yourself. As if that there's a gold mine inside of it, and we're just dicking around with rudimentary metals if we're not actually going to tap into that core. So it's like, it's loving and beautiful and cuddly, but we're not interested in any of that. We just, whatever gets us to the core, to that sort of more pragmatic approach. So as it happens, there's like the utilitarian nature of cultivating safety and openness, so that can come out. Now, if that access is there, then there's a main line, like a freeway of something really powerful moving from you out into the world that can have impact and to inspire others and to be generative. And there's a lot of fluffy language in this. It's part of my nature, certainly, is to be a bit hyperbolic, maybe verbose, but there's a fierce practicality to that I have. The way that I see people, I notice, is that what I want is for the most sincere version of themselves to come out into the fray. And it's the thing that I am innately interested in, not from a point of view of quality of character or righteousness. It's just the thing that actually interests me.
Yeah.
For every gift that is inspired to be given. So we could say it's not you that's desiring to give that thing. It's actually spirit moving through you. We can try that on as an idea. For every idea that is inspired from the depths of us that wants to move through, there is a counter energy that wants to receive it. So for every gift you have to give, there is someone equally inspired to receive that gift. What's the like laws of kinematics or whatever?
Every action has an opposite and equal reaction.
Equal and opposite reaction. Yeah. So things like we've been talking all morning about the masc and fem counterbalancing of things. It works the same way here too. So what a wonderful thing! It almost gives an opportunity to depersonalize, to cut out the kind of like mind stuff of what it is to, execute a creative expression in the world, whether it be starting a business or whatever, or picking up a paintbrush and switching gears from one vocational path to another, that there is a thing that wants to move through you. and there is an audience that wants to receive it. Yeah. Period. And the quickest way to that is authenticity. So getting quiet and listening to what wants to move through. And then there will be natural intermediate phases, and I know this through coaching work, that what bubbles up is like, well, the world suggests that if we're going to do this thing and give it public exposure, we're going to have to market it, we're going to have to follow these other blueprints. And it's like the invitation is, well, this is now mind stuff entering over the top, and it's totally okay and it's totally human. Are we still inspired? Is this coming from an inspired place? Am I really connected with myself? And then here, am I aligned and gauging whether this feels really exciting to deep parts of me, to my heart? Or is this now a mind impression that I've picked up that's suggesting that this is how everybody before you has done it? These are the rules of the game that you must abide by, because the universe has its own rules.
I think too, when you start to dive into the commercial aspects of any gift that you're desiring to give to the world, it feels like the commercial system is more interested in, or it's trying its best, I guess, because you're commodifying something of your gift. Yeah, like an offering, whether it's music or art, or whether it's, a movie, or whether it's advice, or whether it's, spirituality, it's space holding, whatever the fuck it is that the commercial system that we currently have likes what has come before and has worked before. So it actually is encouraging copying. Replication. Thank you. Way better word.
Yeah.
It's encouraging replication. And so it's like, oh, well, it's nice what you've done here. I like what you've done here. I love what you've done here. I've had this said about my art from industry people. And it's like, I love this, man. I love but that's not what the industry is doing right now. Can you do this and this? And it's like, yeah, I can, but like that's not really, that wouldn't be real.
Yeah.
And so part of me wonders, it's like, maybe it's not your place and time for that. Like that will find who it's supposed to find.
Interesting, isn't it? Because this invites I love this topic. This invites some reflection, some refinement. What's the goal? If you're inspired for something to move through you, as it moves through you, it's incredibly fulfilling. It's like you don't have really good sex. You don't have that sex to finish it.
Yeah.
There's an element that wants to desires building and momentum and all of that, and that has an end game, I suppose, implied. But at its absolute best is you want to be present in the rapture of it. Have this experience to have this experience. So similarly with this, when spirit moves through you, like deep in meditation, it feels inherently full. In these flights of creative fancy, when it moves through you, you get to be yourself in such a way that it is inherently fulfilling. And so does it need remuneration? Does it need communal societal validation? No. And when it does, that's okay. But we're noticing these things, and you'll notice that inspiration that bubbles up from within you, God animating you as you, that these things aren't required. And that's fierce in our society. I understand that's a hard game to play, because you're talking about, yes, the industry's validation of what's successful, but they're also implying that it needs to get out there to people in order to be successful. And we did just say that there'll be somebody who wants to receive it, and how do we get that out there? So for me, the most powerful thing, it informs longevity, is I'm inspired to do this, I'm going to do it, and then see what the next inspired thing is. And the inspired thing might be to work with robust historical industry partners. It may be. Yeah. Sometimes the universe does hilarious things.
Weird things.
But like it reserves the right for the cosmic giggle of it all. It's like this is so authentically aligned that it almost becomes an expression of political authenticity, where I'm going to be the one who defies. Like you think of the Pearl Jams and the Radioheads and the ones that have like made Prince.
I can't believe you. I was thinking, totally excited, but like, think of the Gandhis, the Martin Luther King. You're still in music land. I'm often like,
praise be to Tom York. So the ones who made noise around the very things you're talking about. And there are really uncomfortable examples of, music industry rape of artistry. For sure there is. And I'm not even an artist, and I recognize that from a long way away. But sometimes the universe reserves the right to have a bit of a giggle, where it's kind of like, yep, this is totally about authenticity. You think that it's inherently inauthentic to work with an industry partner like something like marketing or whatever, and it'll make that feel so illuminated and charged with love and beauty that you move into it. Yeah. And there's within every space there's a spectrum. There's people trying to do good in inherently or overwhelmingly icky, low vibrational spaces and all of that. There's you look at sports, which have been really almost drill sergeant-y backgrounded places where we're going to put a gun to everybody's head to get the absolute most out of them, and much more prevalent to see compassion, inclusion, patience, love.
Thank goodness.
Greg Popovich is one of the prevalent coaches of the last 20 years in the basketball space. And he's I think he does have a Navy background himself, or a military background himself. But his thing has been sponsored by firm boundaries. And those firmnesses have been around nobody's bigger than team in a really fierce, it feels like it belongs to a different era, but family. Yeah. He loves his guys like family. And it's a small market club and all that. They've been able to dodge a lot of the bright lights of the LAs and the New Yorks and the Chicagos, but they've cultivated a real family orientation, and those guys are ride or die, and they take contract cuts and pay cuts and stuff to keep it alive because it has real value, and they've been successful.
It reminds me of have you seen the Beckham documentary on Netflix? Yeah, it reminds me of, is it Sheedy? Not Sheedy, he's Australian.
Ferguson?
Ferg, yeah. It reminds me of that old school. And, when you look back to his heyday and where he would have received that, that treatment and information and then gone on to share it with the teams he coached, that would have been 70s, I imagine.
Yeah, I feel like Ferguson was a player, maybe even a national team player.
Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't he Scottish though?
He is. Yeah.
I don't know how that fits, but yeah, I think he was a player too.
But even even if he's grown up in coaching land, like they're all, like you said, they're older kind of ideologies about, and I feel like not so much the 80s, but the 90s, 2000s was very much about the individualization and the even if you look at the Beckham doco, you look at the way that he broke away from the team, and he was, kind of catapulted into the stratosphere of fame.
Yeah.
And it was very much seen as a negative thing, had a negative impact on the team,
Oh, that's about as fierce as anything. His celebrity was gigantic and instant.
And I think, that reminds me of the fourth, is it called the fourth turning? I think the guys who have mapped the 20-year cycles of history for like a few hundred years, and they kind of postulate the idea that history repeats every lifetime. There's like a spring, there's a summer, an autumn, and a winter that kind of repeats and it feels a bit like maybe that idea of team and together cohesion, the sum being more important than the parts. Maybe that's about to have its time again,
Yeah.
Don't know, maybe it's too soon, but that idea fascinates me, that we think that we're these unique kind of moments and stuff, but there are
things have been repeating
cycles, and it certainly happens in the music industry where it's just like,
right,
right now it's time for rock, and then it's time for dance music, and then it's time for folk music, and then it's time for it's crazy.
I think I was 11,
it used to be like that,
10 or 11, and got a new jumper and thought this is a new sweatshirt and thought this is amazing
sweater.
And it had a hood on it, so it was a hoodie.
No way.
And I thought that the hoodie had just been invented.
Oh, that's so cool.
And my dad worked in surf industry, and no, buddy, no.
Is this new, Dad?
This hood it was an assertion. Like, they're new and they're awesome. It's like, no,
you're having a conversation with Dad.
They're not new. They've been around for forever. I've worn them my whole life, and wow, I just missed it. But so authentic, right? I was really excited about this thing, and it was new to me. The false presumption was the inaccuracy was that it was new to everybody else too, but it didn't make it any less
magical
potent
or cool.
in my experience. Yeah. I would have felt a bit silly. It's a funny story.
I remember my version of that is I remember my parents having a garage sale of all their old 70s clothes. As part of the thing, they'd kind of got rid of all their old 70s clothes, and this would have been mid-90s, I guess. And there was a very distinct part of my school in my year that was just like, wow, this shit is off tap.
Oh, cool.
And you're like, what? And they're like, yeah, man, these clothes are amazing. Like people that I really, thought were cool and people that I liked,
Yeah.
they're like, my God, this. I remember one girl was like, yeah, I bought your mum's long trench coat and I dyed it black. And it looked amazing. Like, she nailed it. But it's that thing, hey, the cycles.
Yeah, of course. So nothing new under the sun. The thing that moves through me for that is that the cycles generate something else. So the sine wave moves horizontally, but it also moves on a 45 kind of thing. So although it looks like we're repeating cycles, like in an individual's growth, working with therapy or whatever, you're revisiting the same topics over and over, cyclically, spiralic growth. But each time it doesn't just go round and round. That would be a circle. It's spiraling up. And so you are ascending by revisiting the same topic, and it can feel scary, like, holy shit, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm still triggerable by this same shit. But we do get further and further. In my life, in moments of real vulnerability, one of my best friends and an incredible resource on that frontier, be fun if he's listening to this and he knows what I'm talking about, has been...
Shout out to Dave.
Bartholomew. It's like, look at me, I'm fucked. I'm in the middle of this and I'm triggered again. And, oh man, right now it doesn't feel like I've gotten anywhere. And he's like, watch how quick you bounce back this time. We can measure things. This is a beautiful nugget from him. We can measure things in how long we fall off the horse for, how quickly we were able to get back on our feet. So at ground zero, it's like a month. And and then it tightens and tightens, and then you can move off of things within.
I think even the fact that
hours.
Even the fact that you now realize that you've been triggered is an amazing step forward.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's that unconscious, where you just like, you are at the whim of everybody else.
You're right. And that shouldn't be dismissed.
You have no idea what is happening to you. You're just angry, or you're just sad, or you're just whatever.
Yeah, density. So we shouldn't dismiss that as not big too, speaking generally, because there are areas asleep in either of us right now. In the next year or 20 lifetimes or whatever, will become ripe in the field to be met. You go, wow, that was not conscious before.
It feels big for me, that realization. Maybe it was less for you in your life, but for me, that moment where you realized what was happening in terms of, oh, this is because of this. Like this is, we call it triggers now, but whether you used to call it, like, I think, the old way of thinking about it was you were reacting to everything.
Right.
And the newer understanding was you can interact with everything.
That's lovely.
And I think that's for me it was enormous, because it put the control back in my hands to do the work, to find where those kind of really sore places were, to not ignore them, to actually go into them, to explode them, to make them as big and meaningful as I could, to try and understand them to the deepest depths that I was able to understand them, to then thank them, love them, and nullify them.
Yeah.
And then you can interact with that. Because it's like energies.
Transmute, nullify, makes
sure.
sense. But to realize the potential of them is part of it too. So these little schmoos of discomfort that, yes, they do have a human origin, but from a spiritual point of view, they were seeds planted there to be met, to be drawn out into the sunlight, to be reintegrated and cognated into your system, so that a kind of appreciation of what it's like to be really full on that frontier. So to be afraid of heights so that you can then work with that to be able to fly. Getting pretty abstract there, but you can appreciate what it is to fly so much more because of all the fear that you worked through. If we apply that to a maybe more more functional idea that not only do you, as you put it, as you nullify, not only as you work with that tension and harmonize it, we could exchange for nullify there, then you create a spaciousness to which you get to choose what you want to do in that area. And I think innately, like you said before, if we can really find a moment of peace and harmony in relationally, then we can notice what we want from there. So where there is space, creativity follows. There is really no nothingness. In the emptiness, there is everything. And creativity blooms. It wants to fulfill itself. God's like, cool, that's amazing. We're done there. Dusting hands off emoji. We're now going to surge into a new stratosphere. So this kind of spiritual transmutation work begets creativity. So this is the natural, like, for me, Buddhist Hindu disposition that births into something manifestational and creative, that we awaken to all these different faculties alive in what it is to be human, which have this divine undertone, the character of God emerging through us as us. And some of that is creative. I want to create the life of my dreams. They're not your dreams. They're my dreams. They are not an accident. There's one of me and these are my dreams. And I'm not asserting that on anybody.
Yeah.
I'm simply being myself, and there's space for us all to be ourselves in that way. So in the Abraham Hicks world, they talk about like every vibration is exactly where you left it. So if you feel a certain way, if you feel a certain way on a certain frontier of abundance, like I have to work hard in order to generate wealth or something like that, which is many folks, as you well know, that vibration, we can go into all sorts of contraction and expansion to good feeling and bad feeling and all other areas of life. And then we circle back and you're like, oh, I could really use an extra $1,000 this month or something. I'll have to work really hard for that. And a thought just blooms from a certain momentum, from a certain vibration that's there. And you go, that doesn't feel very good. I've got enough consciousness around that kind of area that I want to be able to have more ease and flow and tensionlessness. Let's call it ease, on that frontier. It's exactly where I left it. So utilizing the skills you were talking about digging into it and maybe blowing it up, what we're really talking about is I want to get to a higher vibrational holding around what wealth manifestation looks like. I want to get to a place where I feel like it doesn't come to me because of hard work. Maybe the next step is it comes to me because of joyful work. Eventually it might be like it just comes to me. Or even beyond that, it's simply there. Or maybe beyond that, I am it. Whatever. We're closing gaps, you could say. And as I've alluded to in this passage, that closing of that gap enhances the appreciation of the fulfillment of that desire. So when you find safety in human relationship off the back of a lot of fear and trauma, which is many of our stories, maybe all of ours in different ways, the appreciation to dance in safety, and what follows safety is your ability to be yourself. The appreciation of all of that is exponentially larger. But the vibrations are exactly where we left them. So we utilize all those, I'd say, psychologically informed intonations in you. So I'm going to move into it. What did you say? I'm going to interact with it. It wants to be seen like a crying baby left in the back of the mansion that I forgot about for an hour or a million years. I'm going to go back into there. It's so grateful to be seen. It naturally uncoils and blooms and it uplifts. And in the space where the tension was, I get to create. So the vibration is now a couple of ratchets up the cog kind of thing. A couple of runs up the ladder. And that work doesn't seem to stop. It works in all the ways. It's a beautiful, elegant dance partner meeting of traditional spiritual work and psychological phenomenon and creativity and the fulfillment of our own promise for our trees to fruit, for Paul to Paul and Luke to Luke. And yeah, it's great. And it's, well, I often talk about like what is our nature. Part of it is fulfillment. Part of it is creativity. Part of it is emergence, where growth itself. I think like whatever problem you have to solve in your life, which is maybe particularly as men, we're problem-solving machines. We do interface with lots of problems in our life, and like we've mentioned many times, we do interface with lots of problems in our life on a daily basis. And we tend to default to a mind disposition of, yeah, but what's the right way to solve this? What's the most intelligent sidestep? What am I missing? What's going on? And that's got value. You can hear I don't know, like a striving of integrity, like an earnestness. You can hear an earnestness in that desire to work through that thing. But what's come online for me more and seems to only sort of triple down with time is that what's missing there, the tension you're feeling, is a disconnect from yourself, not the absence of a solution. Like the Einstein thing. Like, you can't find the solution from a problematic vibration. We've got to shift it first and then watch the solution come. So my version of that is like, how do we find connection with ourselves and then see what happens? And parts of my mind will beg, like, no, this is really scary. We need to address this directly and intellectually right now. It's really scary, because if we relax around this, I will feel really unsafe. You go, oh shit, that's the feeling that wants to be felt, so that I can, what's the gap between me feeling really connected to myself is that bubble of unsafety underneath that fear. And so sitting with that, that's the thing to go inside and explode, as you put it, and be with that. And then I'm back connected to myself, and I can't remember what the problem was usually, can't find the tension in the same way. And also now solutions start to flow. So we said before, you're enough. You've always been enough. It's a giggle that we forgot. It's also like divine intervention that we forgot. It's purposeful. It's built into the machine. It's exquisite. But so is remembering. You're the solution to all your problems.
I feel like I'm only able to process the amount of meaning that I am capable of in any given moment. Now, that sounds like a stupid statement. Like, of course, that's all you're capable of. But the truth of it is, you can only extract, if you take that one step deeper, you can only extract depth and potential inspiration out of something to the best of your ability. So cultivate that. Cultivate your ability to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, work in deepening yourself, work in and through the process that you're talking about, like going into those places that are painful, going into those places that are really, like stuck.
Yeah, it sounds
because
like
that's
digging.
It
sounds like digging, and we often do refer to it as digging. I want to invite it. There's a more totally, but there's a more natural availability than that. It's really just what's present in your field. So, and what you realize through normalizing that is that before you were denying its presence, and so really what we're saying is stop getting in your own way.
What's the saying? The two things that humans are is the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure. That's two driving factors of a human.
Right.
And I guess
they sound like the same thing, don't they?
The invitation is to perhaps relax a little on the avoidance of pain, particularly within your own mind and in your own being, and explore some of the reasons as to why you may be avoiding feeling that way.
One of the Buddhist adages is around the pursuit of happiness at all costs, and the discernment between, well, there's happy and there's peaceful.
Yeah.
And where does one end and the other begins? And naturally they bleed into each other. And I've seen them used dogmatically as well, where it's like, happiness is everything, happy for no reason, happy as part of your nature, but also like where happiness can be dismissed as almost like an opioid high that's futile and infantile,
fleeting,
and not worth pursuing. I find that a bridge too far. But yeah, playing with what it is to cultivate peace, which would be the ability to coexist with what is.
Yeah.
And that's the traditional monastic mastery that we talk about. And I think that it's everything, and that it opens up to a whole lot of new shit too, like your capacity to create.
When you were just talking, then my mind went to a social situation. Sometimes I feel awkward socially. And I think, all of us do at some stage or another.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, taking the concept that you were just talking about and applying it into that discomfort would then naturally lead me to desire an open and honest conversation with anyone about anything.
Yeah.
And I would have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're a good person, that we can have a wonderful conversation. I may be proven wrong, but I think at least if you start with I'm only talking from my own perspective.
Yeah,
if you start with the kind of preconception that, this is what I'm endeavoring to do. This is my truth right now.
Yeah. Well, there's a little more available than that too, I think. There is intuition, and there's what you're picking up vibrationally. When you walk down the street, you'll be more drawn to some than others, and you notice. And if we're just present, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be enlightened in the moment or some profound waffle, but just noticing, like, who am I drawn to? You were describing interfacing with people, and that there has to be a trust and a leap of faith sort of element, because this is my intention, to have an authentic, deep conversation with you where we speak sincerely from our hearts, and you don't know if they're going to be able to meet that. And so there's a leap of faith element. Did I read it right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, kind of like if I'm expecting, if I should be giving people the benefit of the doubt if I want that in every situation. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think that there's in real time, there's another layer. There's an in real time availability to how it feels to dialogue with someone as well.
Yeah.
So you offer a little and you see how it feels. And you notice, I had a conversation with somebody this morning where I offered something and I felt a guardedness, and I felt judgment and like, oh, look what you've done. You've applied too much intimacy or something here. And
you were judging yourself, you mean?
A moment of it, yeah.
Sure.
It's like, though I was responsible for cultivating that pushback, because I felt it in my chest. I was like, oh, what have you done here? Like, you've stepped on a prickle in the grass kind of thing. And then just the capacity to dial it back. And then I wound it back, and then I felt this human being soften a little bit, and so I wound it back up 2%, and we're finding our natural balance. And that works across a few different axes, because one of them is the amount of time. It's a bit of a volatile concept, but the idea of vibrational matching, and we've talked about it before, but for some people the vibration is high and they're interacting with someone who's low, and that's a fierce gradient. And they may have to walk down opposite sides of the street.
Can I just congratulate you on that beautiful, like, a fierce gradient? That's such a great. Sorry,
no, that's
we
cool.
can cut that out. But I really like, as a wordy person, that's very nice. I like that.
Cool, bro. Well, I think it captures something that is.
Yeah.
I think that's appropriately described.
Well, no, that's what I like about it. Is like there's no negative and there's no positive to it. It's just like you're just.
Yeah, and I think there's also a certain volatility or a fierceness to the topic, because I'm about to describe someone who's really spiritually expanded,
yes,
and someone who's not.
Yeah.
And if they're to interact, the idea is like, I'm stealing this from teachers, so these aren't my ideas I'm asserting, but I see them come to life with regularity too, that the high vibration and the low vibration is going to get stirred up by the high vibration, and that, there's a small window of time that they can coexist. Maybe it's such a steep gradient that they should just pass each other on the street, sort of. And should is a playful word here. Whereas if there's a much smaller gap vibrationally, they can spend maybe lifetimes together.
Yeah.
This sort of different push and pull. And I've mentioned this before, but if we can attune to the naturalness of this pairing of human beings, be it just eyes locking as you walk down the street, or be it somebody you have children with and spend decades with, a lifetime maybe, whatever kind of relationship it is, being attuned to the natural ambience of the relationship and how it feels vibrationally. Yeah, and naturally tension and release rises and falls in all kinds of relationships, but noticing what it is, and that when you can see the vibrational mismatch or subtle tones of repulsion, or really strong ones, like in the fierce gradient example, that seeing it, there's the next step tends to be a natural compartmentalization of, I don't want to activate this person in a way that's disturbing. I'm not here to tell them what they're doing wrong. That's bullshit. There's a real beauty to allowing them to be in the very middle of their life.
Process, yeah.
Sometimes you can get so lost in guilt and shame in that that you forget that there's a real beauty in you being elegantly positioned in the very middle of your life. And so if those two truths are coexisting, if both are true at the same time, then how can they geographically coexist or vibrationally coexist? And the answer is boundaries, space,
respect,
conscious or unconscious. The respect is there, but you can't ask for conscious respect from someone. They're not going to sit there and go like, that's a high vibrational creature. I can't understand them. I'm going to leave them as they were.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No, definitely. I mean more for, if you experience splashback, which is what we're talking about, is respect for where they're at.
Yeah.
But then also respect for your own, go be kind and loving and gentle, as you're saying, to yourself, because you are still in the middle of your process.
Yeah.
And you are still unfolding and learning, and then enough respect to go, don't keep doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe don't keep doing that because it's, it's painful for you or whatever.
I acknowledge that this is a hard topic. I have
Do you think?
people in my life, yeah. Well, it's been challenging for me, continues to be, and people who've accomplished a lot as far as personal and spiritual growth that will go, nah, there's just people are either available or not to it in the moment, and there's just a natural way to be, and there is no hierarchy. And that's not my experience. But these people are able to lead amazing lives, so it's obviously fine that it's true for them. As it happens, a couple of examples I have in my head, these people are lofty, high vibrational creatures. They're not remotely arrogant about it. And I wonder whether it's too fierce for them to look at how big they've become in a way because they feel like they'd be putting someone else down. There is a natural order to these things. If we're going to allow somebody to be as they are, then giving permission to allow ourselves to be as we are, and the recognition of the different capacities. It's not random. It's there to bestow knowledge of self, experience of self upon both parties. But if you happen to be particularly awake to the play, to the dance, then for you. And so it has a lot, allowing people to be as they are, and in turn giving yourself permission to allow you to be as you are, as the kind of creature who can discern and detect this kind of specificity and granularity in a dance. That's a lot of self-honoring. That's recognizing a really special creature, in my experience. On the outside looking in on these dynamics is that they're both wonderful, but part of the wonder of the high vibrational party in this dynamic is that they've got the ability to see all of this. That's a really special kind of creature. I didn't put anybody down in saying that. And this is part of the nuance. Courtesy is double-edged. And sometimes we can be so courteous to other that we miss out on these aspects of ourselves. And in my experience, you cross that line. You allow yourself to entertain a self-love in those newfound rooms in the house. New faculty comes online, self-discovery, honouring of yourself in a more granular way. You fall more in love with yourself. You become love in a bigger way, and you love everybody else more. Ironically, the fear of arrogance becomes love for self and other. I might look back in 10 years and go like, oof, that was not sponsored by love, and that was an arrogance, divisive posturing, but that feels wrong to even allude to right now. So it feels great to me to play in those spaces and to see people love themselves well.
I feel there's a way to, there may be a way to actually kind of unionize both of those things in a space where if you take the child parent dynamic, where the parent has obviously had a lot more experience, has lived longer in this dimension, and therefore has a deeper understanding of the rules and regulations of this existence. Don't walk on the road.
Totally. Yeah.
Don't swim with sharks. Very poignant at the moment. I feel like you can kind of integrate. There is a hierarchy there, but also in turn there isn't, because the specialness of the child is that they will grow to to be the parent at one day if they choose to.
I think there's a simpler layering there as well, that I'm talking about spiritual capacity.
Yeah.
And you're talking about like neurological integration into the maybe that's not the right word, but what
kind of like I'm using it as a metaphor though, because in my opinion and the way that I believe, everyone will become enlightened over the course of time.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't think there's going to be cats left behind, or do you know what I mean? Like I think, and so really, if time is an illusion, which we don't all know, but we kind of postulate that it is, then there is a hierarchy and there isn't, because you're halfway down the path of your journey, and other people may be starting their journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, if there's no time, of course.
There
is time in as far as inhabiting a human body and being here and watching it age and watching relationships work and fail. And
I mean, there's an ever-present now, really.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's the end of that statement.
Yeah.
Does time exist? Like, it is, because there is a potential for time to be a construct. There's a potential that without memory, does time exist? If you can't remember anything, you're not stuck. Yeah. You're placed constantly in the ever-present now.
It's paradoxical by nature, right? Yet you're in a body that doesn't, grows hair in different ways than it used to. Like, 10-year-old and a 20-year-old has a fucking beard on their face kind of thing. Like there's these different phenomena that are subject to time.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, no, I'm born into this moment and I'm a new person right now that they have stubble on their face, period, and so if you took the absence of memory out, you'd be presence alone. So then does it add? Does coming from a narrative add anything? And we're talking about it all the time. Of course it does. Of course it adds something. This human existence, the arcs that we've learned, that we've worked through, the experience of bad relationships informs the appreciation of good ones. To me, that's all the same thing. It absolutely doesn't exist in terms of the divine, but this elaborate simulation we find ourselves in has such transformative connotations for the divine that it is the divine. So it absolutely does and it absolutely doesn't.
You could take the idea of the ever-present now, and you could say that your consciousness is projecting an idea or a remembrance of what you are into every single moment. And at any stage that can change. And we know that that's true because you have things like, for example, spontaneous remission. People have cancer and then they go in for their scan and everybody's expecting it to be horrific and, they don't have it anymore. Now, we don't have an explanation for that in the Western medical model. We just call it, spontaneous remission. But
divine intervention.
Sure. But it does exist. And so part of me then wonders, well, we have this idea of time. We have this idea that we've created, but what if it's not real? What if it's actually a hallucination? What if there is only the present moment constantly happening and you experience it as moving through a field because you have memory of a past and you can create a potential future in your mind, yet neither of those things are real because we know that memories are fake, they can be fudged, they can be misremembered, they're inherently flawed.
Yeah.
And therefore, what if your consciousness is just projecting an image of you into an ever-present now constantly, and it's only changing from the perspective that you believe it's changing or believe it should be changing? I don't know, that's getting pretty heady and weird, but...
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to prove.
Well, exploring an edge.
Going down
a
rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's okay. But I guess I'm curious about, we use the tool of abstract exploration for a reason. And so what is it that you're motivated by in this? In terms of creativity, capacity,
the nature of time,
to control it,
the nature of time, and therefore
you bring it up. You probably brought it up 4 or 5 times where you drop it in and go, but we won't discuss that today. So we're discussing
hierarchy. Because the idea of hierarchy, in my understanding, and this is where it could be inaccurate, is something is greater than something else.
Yes.
and therefore is above something or is of more worth or,
or of more leadership capacity or whatever. And we do know that that's true, that there are guidelines that we play, that we have any exchange by, that there's roles that people play. Like our friendship has certain natural roles that we adopt in different times. And so we don't actually provision the exact same thing for each other. And socially, there's a natural order that takes place. And I think that's all we're talking about. If we want to delete for the sake of an exploration, to say there's no time, so every moment is brand new, so there couldn't possibly be hierarchy, that's true of all things. There's only one of us. There's only one of us here. There's only one of us here. Hierarchy is a massive giggle. So we're safe as houses, no matter which way we look at it.
Is that do you think that's the potential that you were talking about your high vibrational friends? Do you think maybe that's the space that they're in and that's why they have that view?
I think it's part of it. Again, we're describing
I'm just fascinated.
Holding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you asked me for what I think. So what I experience in those spaces is that the perspective of consciousness or the perspective of monastic enlightenment, whatever, invites a higher holding so that everybody's okay to be themselves all the time, and yet we still have our feminine parts that are humanly relating. And so some things, if we're human, things have the capacity to be hurt or nourished, enhanced or diminished. That's happening. We all have, to me, a way of looking at humanity is that every interaction, near or far, is amplifying. So you and I right now are amplifying something in one another, and we get, to the extent that we're conscious, we get to steer that in a deliberate way. There's also a naturalness where we might just move towards love and connection or something, support that happens without too much thinking. But I certainly think that we amplify one another. So you get to decide whether you amplify this for the better or for the worse. And coming back to the purpose of that discussion around spiritual hierarchy, it only matters if you're finding yourself recurringly diminished around somebody. As if I'm inviting you into a depth of conversation and exchange that isn't for you. Whether that's because you're a dipshit or because I'm a dipshit or because I'm asking too much of you, sort of neither here nor there. The explanation, it is so. This isn't working. I'm pretending and hoping that it is, that it will, but it's not. And these are the sort of revelatory moments that are prevalent in human relationships, right? Where you realize it's not quite what you thought, especially, of a certain vintage. If you grew up together or whatever, it's like, oh, we say it's this, but I'm just seeing that it's this. I have to recontain this. I have to recompartmentalize this and put it in its proper place because I feel naturally capable of this kind of connection. And you've shown me enough times, countless times, that you can't meet that. And I don't blame you for that, but I'm done blaming me for that.
Yeah.
So these are human. This is the human level, not the spiritual level.
What's really interesting that happened in that moment just then for me is that you said exactly what I was just thinking. At that same moment, that realization I was having of is this more maybe about abandoning the self-criticism when you have those moments and allowing them to be uncomfortable without judgment of the moment, of yourself or of the other person, and just allow them to be a moment. Yeah,
so this is the Amy and Penelope phenomenon.
Huh? Oh, Amy and Penelope. Yes.
So the Amy and Penelope phenomenon. So they're both wonderful and they both have gifts to offer each other. And Penelope realizing that she can actually prioritize her own emotional well-being is the gift of Amy in her life.
Yeah, totally. Is that though? I'm more interested in the high vibrational aspect of it, and how those people are at odds with the idea of hierarchy. Is it because they've released enough judgment within themselves of those moments when they have splashback or moments that feel clunky or moments that feel downright gross or horrible or whatever, they have no ownership of that or need to own any of it themselves because they're like, it was just a moment and all is fine. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do, but it's, to me, that feels like
there's a moment of expansion that is being offered, and if it's not taken, that's not on me, and it's not on you either. It's neither here nor there.
Oh, sure. But you're describing.
I'm just trying to understand
that's
something
a relationship.
outside
totally
of my
reasonable.
current.
But that's a relationship that is in its proper place then, and it's in its proper place. We're both steady, and now I've offered you the invitation to move to a third place together, or to
and you've said
let's
no.
progress this, and you've said no, and I'm very happy to go back to my place. As opposed to a relationship where you're both telling yourself that you're profound gifts to one another as equals, kind of thing, and there's all sorts of subtle messaging around how we support each. Like one person, because we support each other so elegantly, and then party A says that, and party B is like, that's not my experience of this relationship at all. Oh dear, that's a lot. And we've got 30 years that I feel like I'd be throwing down the toilet if I was to say anything like that. So you've now got to kind of tweak and work out whether you try to expand it into a new place or you dial it back. And yeah.
Can you forgive yourself for the misunderstanding?
You must.
And then offer it up to yourself as a gift from a learning perspective. And
that's the gift of Amy to Penelope.
Yeah.
That they've both got massive gifts for each other.
That's
and
cool.
It's everything.
Yeah,
This is the amplifier. This is the furnace of human relationship. It's incredible.
This man, it is, asks the question, I've started doing, inverted commas, the work, and now my mates think I'm soft. The social friction is real. Do I get new friends, or do I stay and try to be the reveal for them? It's a good question.
Well, the reality is, I suppose it implies like there's been a revelation of sorts. I've crossed a threshold, like I've gone over a line I can't go back, but it's a bit of an explosion open. Whereas sustained work over many years, decades, informs an intentionality to normalize working, informs making explosions pedestrian all the time, every day. I get used to what it is to emerge. I love that language. I'm obsessed with that word. To emerge. I'm coming up and out in a new way all the time. And so we want to normalize that stuff. And as we do, you just changed, and the world apparently didn't. If the world moved exactly with you, you may not discern the change. So you moved differently, particularly to your local neighborhood of world. So you've constructed a little world with relationships and concepts and normalizations, sights and sounds and feelings, and you just moved up, down, left, right. You just moved outside of that mold, and so you can feel the difference because of its stasis. So there's a gift in that, for one, if not an abstract one. You can also feel the tension. So you've shifted apparently away from that mold, and you feel it as a tension. Now, I suppose it implies that we should create a new normalization, and we call this integration work. So plant medicine's a convenient example of somebody goes and does a deep dive, and they come back into their world, and now they've got to take that divine injection and integrate it into all the different areas of their human existence, into their routine and whatever, into their flesh and blood, so that it becomes not just normal in astral travel, like under the influence of plant medicine, but it becomes normal in human routine. It becomes normal in your everyday, and that's the integration work. So that sounds like what this is. And you're noticing the friction with these friends. The question, do you ditch them, or do you hang around to reform them? Drop the last bit. It doesn't work. There's no reform. There's no helping in that kind of way. There's no leading someone through the thicket. Those phenomenons, things can look like that. I get it. Things can look like that in a moment where someone go, wow, you helped me so much with that. But if you're on the other end of the stick and you're the helper and you've been doing that for a while, you realize that it has everything to do with the receptivity of the primary person, the person doing that new work. They're right for it when they're ripe for it. It has nothing to do with you. It's as if they attract you in to use you like a wet towel uses the wind to dry it. You're just simply being yourself, and they're going to use you when they are ripe for that kind of influence and amplification, but not before. If we flip all that and say the best way you can help anybody to grow is by not needing them to change at all, is by getting out of their way and allowing them to be themselves, and then growth will naturally happen. People, we are emergents, we will naturally emerge. So if we can't help our friends reform, and the other option is to ditch them, we can explore the nuance of that. Ditching's fierce, isn't it? It's ugly. Or are they ditching you by not providing the place for you to stay? This new version of you is not welcome, so are they ditching you? Either way, there's a wonderful spiritualization of your humanity in which you're like, how do I take care? How does my spirit part provide the safety for the human part to continue to integrate all this emergence, to continue to take this stuff I get from spiritual endeavor, like astral travel or whatever? Because, I'm using astral travel in a fun holding. It's like you could have that under the influence of plant medicine or in deep meditation on an intensive, or sitting at the feet of this teacher in some lofty spiritual fable, or making love to the love of your life. There's all sorts of catalysts. Having a child, standing on stage in front of 10,000 people and allowing yourself to crack open and express something artistically. Imagine all these wonderful things. Walking on the beach with no one on it while it rains, getting onshore wind in the face to the point it makes your eyes hurt. All sorts of catalysts. So if it's in our interest, therefore, to take those big injections of spiritual energy and transmute them into growth, then our bodies have to receive it. The embodiment, the integration. That's what a real emergence is. Otherwise, anybody can have a bit of DMT and see God. I'm being a little bit glib about that. But integration is the juice. That's where God meets Gaia. That's where the two dance in you as the individual. So, it behooves us, therefore, to take care of that human being. So as you grow, in order to show up authentically with your boys, with your people who matter enough to you for you to gift them something authentic. If I'm going to be around these guys, I want to be the real version of myself. But then how deep do I go? If there's 4 friends there, you'll go to different depths with each of them. How interesting. So the relationships aren't the same, and you're already discerning who you open up to more or less to. In essence, as you grow, in order to continue that growth, we've got to be healthy. We've got to be socially, spiritually, emotionally well. And in order to do that, we have to have these relationships in the right place. So you might go, shit, man, this friend Petey is not receiving this new version of me all that well. I don't blame him for that. But it's not my fault either. This is kind of a thing that's just animating my life. It's a river that's moving through me. It's full of love and creativity, but it's got an element that's choiceless. This is something that's simply happening. And I'm feeling a lot of friction and pushback from over there. So I'm going to dial it back. You could say, get the relationship in its right place. So I don't talk about spirituality with Petey. But as I change the relationship and I realize that I'm only I'm only sharing 5% of me with him, is this relationship still generative? Is this something I want in my life? I'm a precious resource and so's he. Is this 5% enough juice for us? The dangling question here is when you say, there's a scenario in which you say no to Petey and you cut him out of your life, right? In that scenario, what's happening? If it's driven by that level of self-love, then while it's a no to Petey, it's a massive yes to yourself. I'm thinking of a dialogue with someone last year, I think, around something more romantic, relationship orientated. And it's like, it's really easy to break up with a partner who's a toxic dickhead. It's really easy to say a no to a dickhead. But when you love somebody and they're a wonderful human being, but you know in a deep place that this relationship has reached its fulfillment, it's done, it's complete. And now you have to traverse the heartbreak of saying no to a person you love and value deeply because it feels right and it is time. Saying no on those terms is much, much harder. And it's a much larger yes to yourself. It's so hard to do. You would only do it if you had to. You would only say no to somebody you love that much if it was a massive yes to yourself. And in that instance, you know it's unfulfilling. So you're saying yes to the potential of a relationship that is that fulfilling. Fulfilling to who? To you. So with this, if we were to say no to some of these friends, lovingly and gracefully and well-wishingly, staying in line with integrity. If you were to say no to them, get curious about the yes you're saying yes to. Get curious about the part of you that is being welcomed, honoured, grounded, rooted, and expanded through saying that no. And coming back to the Amy and Penelope phenomenon that we've been discussing is those two parties realising their full potential, particularly the one who's instigating the no. That is actually the gift of Petey in this instance, is to say no. And in doing so, say a massive yes to yourself. And if those things are irrelevant, it's because these relationships, once put in their right place and operating at their right depth, are fulfilling to you and worth cultivating. Because all relationships take energy. Now, does watering that plant provide fruits and shade that is uplifting to your life? If it's a yes, it's an easy yes. If it's not quite sure, then there's processing to be done. But that processing will grow you, and that is the gift of that human being to you. That is two souls meeting and dancing and participating in one another in a wonderful way.